What's up? What's up? It's Brian with the Blurting While Dad live stream. I'm back. Um, had a ton of difficulty getting on today, so apologize for it being a little bit later than normal, my normal starting time. I was hopefully trying to be playing some Overwatch while we had this conversation, just because it's a holiday week and I wanted to keep it light. But the way my technology works, um, it's not going to happen. Overwatch is still updating. Steam is still updating the game, and it's not going to be done for a while. So it is what it is. So we just got other stuff to talk about. Tonight's episode, I'll wait for the chat to start populating, waiting for people to start strolling in here. Um, but yeah, this week has been really kind of an interesting one. That first week in June is always kind of an interesting thing for political nerds, just because this is typically when we get those Supreme Court rulings, and we find out how the court is going to ruin our lives, how they're going to inflict their brand of um, partisanship on us. um, what law that we've gotten used to are they going to overturn? um, and really just it's really just about how are they going to disrupt um, our lives in a substantial way. And um, they haven't taken any time off yet, and so I don't expect them to do so in subsequent years. But yeah, so that's kind of what that first week of June brings with the Supreme Court rulings. Everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to talk about, or they're waiting on specific rulings to come out and lower our seat a little bit. um and so yeah, so we'll talk about the Supreme Court rulings, and basically this episode's called the series finale of America. uh, and I know it sounds dark and it sounds bleak, but really, if you can't laugh at some of this, I do feel sorry for you if you cannot just stare in awe of this. So we're talking about the series finale of America. Um, if you can't, like, here's the thing. I'm not trying to make light of anybody that's suffering. Um, earlier this year we had to we had to get rid of we had to get rid of health insurance that I was paying for as a business owner, just because it got too damn expensive. Like, I'm not saying that this stuff isn't serious, and the the stuff that's happening in the administration, across the administration, some of this stuff isn't scary. It's not. Some of it's not impacting real people, but being able to keep your sense of humor, that's the one thing that they can't take away from you. And it's not just laughing at other people's misery, it's being able to react to the absurd, like the absurd nature of what we're all kind of universally experiencing. Last time we did this was like during the pandemic, where we just had to realize that we are living in the stand. Like, that was like the stand was happening outside of our door, and we just found a sense of humor about it. Some people some celebrities decided that they were going to sing to us through the entire pandemic. I have a grudge against people singing on my television to this day behind that. But you have to be able to keep a little bit of sense of humor about this, even when things are scary. And I'm not laughing at what's happening. I'm laughing at the absurdity of all of this and how insane this entire thing looks, and how my kids are going to explain it to their kids. Like, so what are you doing for the series finale of America? Let me know in the chat. um, are we hoping for a spinoff? Like, are we looking like, I'm kind of hoping for some kind of spinoff or something along those lines. If we're going to be dealing with the series finale of America, it might as well be an interesting mess. And it might as well just spin off into something else. Okay. Maybe the next show will be better. Mid-season replacement or something. It could come in as a mid-season replacement or something. So that's what we're talking about on today's stream. All right. And I scared a bunch of people off, just rambling, waiting for everything to get settled. So when I talk about this today, we're going to talk about the latest Supreme Court rulings, what they mean for regular people. We're going to talk about how segregated music was in the 90s. I think when we have these conversations about nostalgia, um, people waxing poetically about how we are all unified and all this other stuff, um, we do need to stop bullshitting and pretending like music wasn't way more segregated in the mid 90s, because it really was. A lot of the crossover, like specifically the crossover of black music into mainstream media, that was a slow burn. And people are lying when they say it was like this unifying thing. It really wasn't. There were two separate cultural experiences and cultural zeitgeist happening at the same time. We'll talk about specifically narrowly how ADHD novelty seeking can kind of mess with success. I'm experiencing it right now. So this is kind of an ADHD flavored show. So we talk about whatever pops up, and that's how we roll. And typically I get about maybe 3 lines through my outline before somebody hops in with a question and we have a whole conversation about it. So anyway, that's what we got on today's episode. So first things first, we're going to talk about the series finale of America, and it's trash. The series finale of America, this final season has been garbage so far, and so really hoping for something to tie this up and make it logical, because I think that's kind of that's what I'm dealing with, where I don't mind series finales being bleak as long as it makes sense. And right now, the series finale ain't even making sense. So far, the showrunners have gone completely off the rails. We're tearing up the reflection pool. Apparently, we're having, you know, Vanilla Ice. Like Vanilla Ice was performing in front of people in our year of the Lord 2026. How's it going? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. In our year of the Lord 2026, Vanilla Ice was actually performing in front of a crowd of a captive audience of people, or supposed to, before it got rained out, or I think it just got canceled because nobody showed up to that shit, because nobody wants to see Vanilla Ice. Nobody wants Vanilla Ice just Trojan horsed on them. And so I think a lot of people looked at whatever that America 250 thing, whatever that was supposed to be, where you had Vanilli from Milli Vanilli and Vanilla Ice, and Young MC got tricked into performing for it, and everybody dropped out. And the only person that was left was Vanilla Ice. And I'm sorry, I don't want to. If you couldn't pay me to watch Vanilla Ice in concert. Does the Supreme Court ruling? Oh, let's go. All right, we've already tuned up. Let's go. All right, let's see. So does the Supreme Court ruling today mean that technically the founding fathers are now citizens, since none of them were born of America? All sweet. I'm sure Washington, Madison, and Jefferson would love that. I feel like we're just in this, like we're just spamming garbage. We're just spamming like garbage Supreme Court ruling. Doesn't it feel like these are just garbage, like Supreme Court rulings to really benefit a very narrow group of people and just troll other people, like troll the masses and benefit a narrow group of people? That's really what it is, right? Like that's what it's feeling like. Like we're all being trolled, and that is AI. Okay, let me know what it is. Technically, they were not born here. True. Rules for thee, but not for me, kind of thing. I think understanding that the way our political system is structured and everything, the laws are really just, it's really just social contract at this point in time. Like we've been in a constitutional crisis for the better part of a couple of administrations, right? Like where specifically under Trump, where he just says, what you're going to sue me? I don't care. I don't care what the law is. This is what I want to do. And that's a constitutional crisis where the president says, yeah, what are the courts saying? Yeah, fuck the courts. I don't care what they're saying. That is a constitutional crisis. And so we've been kind of living in constitutional crisis world. And so normal looks weird right now. GOP is trying to attack the 17th Amendment. They're trying to. I'll say this is old school, guys, and here's my purpose. I wish we had a man like him in office today. I think I would take a chimp, like a trained orangutan, or some kind of, or even just like maybe an invertebrate who just sits in a tank somewhere. I would take that over what we have right now, because at least they're not aware of what's happening and they can't be destructive. Right now we have somebody who's destructive who I don't know if they're 100% aware of what's going on. That's a weird combination. It's a weird nihilism that we're getting. Let's dig into the 17th Amendment a little bit. What we Because I want to pull it up on the screen before we get too far into it. So we can actually have the words, because I know what it is. I just want to make sure that it's on the screen so we can be clear about it. So the 17th Amendment states the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state elected by the people thereof. Every 6 years, senators should have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have qualifications requisite for the state legislatures. The weird part about the Senate is always like this weird. It's like this weird vestige of the aristocracy, in my opinion. I don't know if there's anything deeper than that. I always just thought it was weird that we have the Congress and the Senate. I understand the 2 house principle and things along those lines. State legislatures pick senators, right? It really immediately realized how bad and corrupt that was, right? And there are points where I question what is the purpose of the Senate. Now, sometimes the Senate keeps us from going completely crazy, but I guess, and the way it was explained to me, and you guys can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why congressmen have these short terms and senators have longer terms is because, in theory, the idea is you make Congress people more responsible to the whims or the desires of the people that put them in office. Meanwhile, senators are supposed to represent what's in the best interest of the voters, regardless of what the voters actually want, and they're only held accountable every 6 years. Yeah, it just seems like this weird, like we don't really need it, like this superfluous thing that just is just there, like a holdover from the aristocracy. I don't know. I've always since I've been aware of it, I always question, like, what does the Senate actually do? So explain. All right, so Maddie, tell me what they're trying to do when you say they're attacking. I know they're saying to repeal the 17th Amendment. Help me conceptualize that a little bit. Tell me so I can break it down a little bit and chew it over. Internal checks and balances within the legislator, and I think that worked up until the point where, because I think Obama getting elected, all the gloves kind of came off, and it really became, we're going to weaponize the Senate to prevent any movement from this administration, even though this is what the American people voted for. They want to go back to the state. No, okay, yeah, I see where this is going. Anything to get around anything to win without competing. That's really what it is. Anything to not have to deal with the public, because the public is gross, right? Like, public is, it's the public. The public. We don't want to be held accountable by the people. We rather just let the like, I don't know about your state legislators, but the zaniest people, the zaniest fucking people, the craziest, most unhinged group of people somehow always seem to find their way into state legislatures around the country. We have a unicameral, so we got there's not 2 houses, both houses are combined here. So ours functions a little bit different, but and it also kind of plays into how we do our electoral college votes, where Omaha has its own electoral college vote, and so that's why they call Omaha the blue dot, because we always, for the last couple of elections, we split the rest of the state, so it always go 2-1, essentially, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, partly because Kansas senator was so terrible, quite possibly going to lose the seat to a Democrat for the first time since the FDR administration. All right, yeah, and Cheat to win is kind of the MO. And I think I don't understand how some people aren't put off by the power grabbiness of what's happening right now. Like, even if it's your side, right? Even if it's your side. And I think that a lot of people are really still like, I guess fascism is cool, as long as we get what we want. And that's kind of what it feels like is happening right now. But again, it seems like the state houses have the zaniest group of people. Like, these are people that, if you ran them on for a national seat, they would be making headlines every single day for the crazy shit that came out of their mouth. We have the dude here who's talking about kids were using were using like litter boxes in classrooms and stuff. Like, and he said that with his whole chest. I was watching it, and he said that with his whole chest. Like, yeah, man, these kids are they're actually using litter box. They're using what? That doesn't even sound realistic. When's the last time you've been to a school, bro? Yep, MAGA's been selling that. They've been selling the beauty and the lure of fascism, where you don't even have to hear the other side. As long as you can bury them and put them in jail and get them away from you, you don't have to hear any dissenting opinions. We can all just go along and get along. And I think that's what it is. I don't know if you watch Folding Ideas on YouTube. Folding Ideas did a perfect video about this called In Search of a Flat Earth. And it started out as kind of a typical flat earth kind of video, but it turned really into, it was one of the first documentaries I'd seen talking about QAnon in depth and actually identifying who it was. This is a couple years ago. Like, I had done it. I had I was writing for my my comic book blog, and I kind of wanted to do I did a bunch of research about Gamergate and stuff, and that's why I was talking about Steve Bannon, because I was following his ascendancy and the rise of the MAGA movements, and basically these memes as policy and stuff like that, and the troll farms they were paying, and all that other stuff. Anyway, long story short, I was following all of that stuff, and so I've always been fascinated by the right-wing conspiratorial groups like Pizzagate and all that other stuff. And so, okay, Sadie, thanks for jumping on. I don't know why you want to talk about Carmelo Anthony, because that's not what we're talking about. You saw a black face and decided that's what you wanted to do. So you can go scream into the void. Goodbye. And so anyway, comfortable fascism. They're paid grifters, but there's a certain level of nihilism where you're willing to, that your voice is the hammer and chisel that's shaping the future of the country. And yeah, you're getting paid those little checks, but you're basically creating a world where none of your children really have rights, because unfortunately what happens is we're compartmentalized in terms of race and whatnot, but anything they do, black people tend to always be kind of the test group. Like, we always seem to be the test group for a lot of this stuff, but it spreads in different ways to other groups. So when you start depriving one group of rights, eventually it does worm its way up. Like those women influencers, we don't believe in women voting. Yeah, they're getting paid. It's a pay, and it's like, so if you don't believe, then why are you on this show? We shouldn't even be hearing your opinion on this. I mean, we can get really remedial on it if we wanted to, and expose the hypocrisy. But again, hypocrisy has never been the red line for right wingers. It's never been the red line for people that are caught up in a cult. Hypocrisy never has really been the red line for them. Paid grifters, right? I'm in the undercover MAGA space selling them on Christian socialism. Okay. It's kind of awesome. I got them to like, let's go. Hello, how's it going? Yeah, we had somebody who's decided they want to come in here and start talking about Carmelo Anthony. Like, I mean, they saw there's a black guy hosting. Let me start yelling about this other thing about this other black person. So I had to ban them. So I'm a little bit behind on comments. Carmelo Anthony that was the case of the two young men, I think it was down in Texas, um, where he ended up stabbing the white kid that shoved him. And they were saying, there was contention about whether it was a self-defense case or not. It broke down on racial lines really bad. I am of a belief that once you put your hands on somebody, you've completely decided that you're going to take all the risk upon what happens. And we could point at numbers that show that black people never really get the stand your ground laws don't ever benefit black people in most cases, especially when the victim is when the assailant is white. But it was the wedge issue that got all the lunatics, all the right wing lunatics. Like for whatever reason, right wing lunatics are fascinated with dead black people, and they think that by dead black people or black people that are suffering and whatnot. And so for them, like for a long time, the entire George Floyd thing, that was a punchline for them, and they would throw it out in conversations with black people to try to hurt our feelings. And they're like, yeah, oh, okay, you're just being weird. And so now Carmelo Anthony, now that he has essentially been convicted of stabbing this kid, and they didn't allow any kind of self-defense thing, any kind of self-defense to be even considered. Now that's their joke. Like he's in jail getting prison raped is their joke. That's the joke. That's the joke. I got some colorful things to say about Chud, but I'm gonna let that ride because that's not my sense of humor. Yep, we're just in this weird nihilistic anything. Her blackface, what's going on? Nothing exists out of profiting and pushing their own soul. Yeah, I mean, they don't care about paradoxes or hypocrisy. Hypocrisy only works when you actually value being morally consistent. If your morals kind of shift based on a situational basis, or who you're talking to, then hypocrisy don't matter to you. Right? It's not hypocrisy if they don't believe what you're saying is deception. That is true. Oh, the football thing, yeah. And so we just had a troll jump on there, and whatever their Carmelo Anthony joke is, because they saw a black person talking about it, and they're like, "I'm gonna hurt his feelings by saying this thing that he's not talking about randomly out of nowhere," and that's kind of what it is. Um, it's the troll culture. Like we live in the troll world right now, where um people's contribution of discourse that's uncomfortable, when they encounter discourse uncomfortable, they instantly turn into trolls. Now, for me, the time I turn into a troll is when I'm dealing with an obvious racist who's not really wanting to have any kind of meaningful dialogue. Like I always say, no good faith argument for bad faith actors. And that's how I roll. So if you have a racist that rolls up in here and tries, and that's kind of where I turn into a troll. But basically, a lot of people's basic political interaction with other people, specifically those with whom they disagree, is just trolling. Yeah, it's a death cult. And the crazy part is they don't understand that it all ends in killing all of us. I do. I mean, blackface is automatically a bad thing, and I'm gonna say why. Because just with the legacy of blackface has always been there's um like Jim Crow, the law of the land of segregating. Jim Crow segregation is based on a character in blackface. Is named after a character in blackface. The entire process of legally stating that black people cannot be here is based on a character in blackface. And I guess you had to grow up where I grew up, where my mom used to collect a lot of these old advertisements and stuff that had blackface on them and things along those lines. And once you start digging into it, there's a lot of violence and darkness in that. And so for me, that's what blackface is tied to. And for a lot of black people, that's kind of the legacy it's tied to. It's tied of dehumanization. And so there's a whole legacy that goes along with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't, I've seen the Robert Downey Jr. thing, and there are specific nuances to the argument. Always nuances. Everybody's educated to become a hero, which leads to embrace of a death cult as echoes hers. Your fascist is impatient to die, and his impatience he frequently sends other people to his death. Right, just cut out the middle. I can't say that. My thoughts have been shared. The apocalypse component. Oh, another troll. I like black hookers. I'm not racist. Yep. And so now I think I've reached that level of, I don't know, is it online infamy, I guess, where now I'm getting trolls in the feed. Like this was, I don't know if I've arrived yet. I don't know if that means anything, but now trolls are deciding they're going to pop up and start putting their word vomit on the screen. So you'll start seeing me actively ban them. But yeah, I do think it's this weird, and a lot of it there's a fundamentalist angle to it. Like I know there are military people that were complaining about Pete Hegseth when we invaded Iran. He and whoever, they took a couple of the more religious crazies near the top of the military, and they were sitting there talking to the soldiers about, this is the holy war right here. Like this is the war that that will bring on the revelation, all kinds of crazy shit. And so there's that level of death cult, and then there's other death cult where it's like, well, I got money, and me getting money isn't inherently a bad thing. And I don't care what happens to the planet. It can all burn if I get paid. Huckabee is the ambassador of Israel. All right. Our interest in Israel has always been some weird, especially since the religious right popped up. It's always been this weird pseudo religious kind of thing. Yeah, Huckabee is a weird dude, bro. Like, and if I had his children, I mean, daughter's a compulsive liar. The son is animal torturing weirdo. Um, and he was the mayor, he was the governor of Arkansas, like Arkansas, bro. Sarah's a terrible person. Sarah is a terrible person. AI again. Okay. um, Sarah is not a terrible she's a terrible person. Um, and her inner self is reflected in her outward appearance most times. To go from the Clintons to the Huckabees, yeah, Arkansas's had it rough, bro. And I guess I always feel like governors who are in states that are near the bottom shouldn't be able to talk shit to anybody about governing. Like I don't feel like they should be qualified to, they're not qualified to speak about governing. Like get your shit straight, bro. And Arkansas has lagged behind for a long time. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, we're in the series finale of America, and it's kind of apropos, right? Like we got the 250 cup. It's in the backdrop of this big 250 thing. Again, like I said, we had that big event that everybody dropped out of except Vanilla Ice, and then they canceled it. They lost. It was a Young MC backed out. Vanilli from Milli Vanilli decided that he wasn't going to show up. I think it was Rob from Milli Vanilli. A couple other people backed out once they found out that this was no longer the nonprofit that was celebrating the 250th anniversary, but some hijacked Trump thing. And so this just feels apropos. All right, and where we go. And so it feels apropos in the backdrop of, so we're in the 250th year of America, and everything is falling apart. The Supreme Court is, and I haven't even started going through the different rulings. So I guess we can start talking about those in the series finale. And typically, like I said, June is an exciting time of year for the political nerd, just because this is when you get those summer Supreme Court rulings that they're going to wrap up right before they disappear off into the money that has been funneled into their pockets for their compliance. You know, Clarence Thomas, I mean, true. Harlan Crow. He's going to give him a nice little new RV, and he's going to get a chance to travel the world and everything. And all he has to do is just sell the rest of us up the river. That's all. I mean, it's a small price to pay. So, we're going to talk about the birthright citizenship one, which was the big one for a lot of people. And so the court held that children born in the U.S. To parents who are lawfully or temporarily present at birth are protected under the 14th Amendment, or citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment. They were trying to get rid of the 14th Amendment, essentially. And it's interesting the kind of, you get rid of that, because that's really the thing that allowed black people to become American citizens. For better, for better or ill for us, but it allowed us to become American citizens. I feel like discussions needs Native Americans. It does, but and that's the crazy part about living in a colonized country. The people in power get to dictate who gets a voice at the table. And they've decided that Native Americans, their voice at the table, doesn't matter in the history of this country. They get to determine whose history gets taught, who gets to advocate for themselves, and things along those lines. I don't get if they can if they can arbitrarily decitizen even a natural born citizen. They can arbitrarily do it to anyone, right? And that's what it is. They don't understand it. I watched Mike Johnson like growl when they told him that this thing didn't go through. It's like, "Urgh." And somebody's like, I mean, sir, you're a constitutional lawyer. You do know that this was the amendment that gave slaves American citizenship. It's like, we can discuss the legalities of it later on. I need to read the briefing to understand it. You need to read the briefing to understand what? What are we arguing here? Yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing. I remember people have a short memory about this stuff. Mike Johnson, chill out, right? They're trying to bring back slavery. Here's the thing. So I don't have a short memory when it comes to this. I remember very clearly when Trump first got in office, the second time, he was asking other countries, El Salvador specifically, talking about deporting America, or outsourcing American prisoners to El Salvador and working out arrangements to send Americans. They were openly talking about it, and then said, "Nah, we're not going to do that." But I mean, they were talking about it, and so this is a step in that direction, where all it's going to take is a late night, where he's got the McDonald's squirts and he's sitting on the toilet, enraged, and he'll sit there and tweet something about some grifter on the right wing will send him some news article that pisses him off, and he will be sitting there talking about, we need to take this specific criminal and ship them to El Salvador and strip them of citizenship, and he will try to make the government do it. And that's what would happen if we allow them to screw with the birthright citizenship thing. The thing about Clarence Thomas, I've done the history about Clarence Thomas. He's an interesting dude. And I'm gonna tell you why. For a long time before Clarence Thomas got to college, he was doing the typical thing that a lot of young black people were doing, which was he's active in civil rights. Like, he's active in it. And then he gets to college and something breaks in his mind. He's one of the first group of black people, I think it was Yale, if I'm not mistaken. And the other black folks that went to Yale kind of, they had each other's back, and they just kind of hung around each other and stuff and supported each other. And they said Clarence Thomas started separating themselves from him because he had this inferiority complex, because he felt like, well, I only got in here because I'm black. Well, I mean, you were the first black people to integrate Yale, and you still had to have the test scores. You still had to be able to perform. They just weren't allowed to legally exclude you. And he always had a thing about it. And so that ended up becoming his life's mission. That's what the concentration camps are for. Say if you work hard enough, right? The concentration camp. I mean, and when we talk about it, I think people think we're being facetious when we say concentration camps. I mean, the idea of a concentration camp is you concentrate a specific segment of society in encampments. That's what all these refugees things are for, and so they're building the capacity for these post pandemic. When everything started stabilizing, there was a huge drop in the prison population, and so they got to make that revenue up somewhere. And so that's why a lot of these for-profit prisons started leaning into for-profit immigrant centers. Yeah, I used to be a civil rights activist. What do you think of Conor McGregor's return against Max Holloway? I try not to. I'm not a huge fan of Conor. I, um, you know, I'm just not. He's not one of my favorite fighters to watch. Look up Core Civic. All right, I got you. But yeah, I think specifically, the private prison industry pivoted into, um, these immigration centers because they saw that as a cheaper option. There's less oversight, and plus they got an administration that's friendly with them, so they can treat those people any old way, and they're not going to get dinged for it. And that's why they're so reluctant to allow um, uh, Congress people to tour them and look at them because they know what the conditions are like in there. And if they let those people in, let Congress people in, it will shatter the narrative that this is about humanity. It's really not. It's inhumane. It's legalizing inhumanity. But that is one of America's chief exports at times. Um, is inhumanity. How do you feel about Christians? I think what I don't trust, and I don't trust when somebody tries to use their religion as a way to try to govern the actions of other people, where they try to use their religion as a cudgel to force people into a specific predetermined or agreed way of life. That's what I have a problem with. I think a lot of, like any other high control group, oftentimes there are specific times where some churches leverage their hold on their parishioners to leverage specific types of behavior out of them, and oftentimes it's not hard to draw the line. Some of them is a political action kind of too, where they control them down all the way down to the political nature of who they are allowed to vote for and what they are not allowed to vote for. Um, but I think there's a case for a lot of major world religions being used as a control device. Um, in America, the weapon of choice is that white Protestant kind of Christianity. In other places, it's other types. And so I don't throw all Christians into this basket. I don't necessarily think that that's for me, that's not necessarily useful. Also, considering the black church was the staging ground for a lot of civil rights and um, revolutionary action. Um, there was something there. There's something there. There's some supporting evidence to indicate that there was some benefit. It just depends on what you're using. Like, essentially, is what religion is being used for. It did, but also a profit motive played a huge part in it too. And I know the Christianity underpinned the profit motive oftentimes, but um, it was used as kind of an excuse, rationalization, if you will. It was the convenient lie that slavers told themselves so that they could look at themselves in the mirror and think that they were still human beings, as opposed to the animalistic people that they were. Hitler uses it as a tool. Yeah, and Trump's copying the playbook. Um, what was it? Who said it? It wasn't Folding Ideas. Innuendo Studios. Palingenic ultranationalism. Palingenic ultranationalism. Palingenesis is this idea of this national rebirthing process, that the nation has to be cleansed and rebirthed, and only way we can rebirth the nation in the right way is to purge it of the undesirables, and that's what the palogenesis kind of thing means, and the ultranationalism is self-explanatory. And so whenever you see, this person railing for their God-given right to do blah, 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 and they start crying and stuff, and it stops making sense, that's typically what you're running into. And that's what Trump is. Trump's copying the cult behavior. Like, he's really good at establishing cults of personality around his lifestyle brand. That is the one thing that he's really good at, compelling people to buy his shit. Right. It's a pattern. He's an ultimate salesman. He's really good at building a mystique around the name Trump. Like, right now, we are in a really terrible, like a long, unending brand campaign for Trump. That's why I say he's not a conservative. He's not a Democrat, or he's not any of this stuff. He is a salesman. He's whatever he needs to be to win the interaction. And for him to win the interaction, he had to court racist people that seemed to align with who his father was and his grandfather was. Yeah, like Jordan Belt. Yeah. Can't be that good. Yeah, he's not good at it, but he can sell. Well, I think the other side is he can sell people bullshit. It also helped that his dad had a lot of other people's money, and allowed him to get an endless supply of other people's money. But he has always been good like that. As long as this dude's been on the national scene, like, I've known about Trump since I was a little kid. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous for Robin Leach, and the gold-plated airplanes with the gold-plated toilet, and all the stuff is a contrivance. When you listen to people, again, the guy I mentioned last week, the guy who talked about Trump crapping in his pants, he also was talking about how when you walked around Trump Tower during The Apprentice, it looked like most of it was like this weird dilapidated, like paint was coming off the walls or dead plants and stuff. Like, it looked like it was crumbling, except for the places that they shot. They would really bring in the teams to paint it up and make it look like it was actually successful. But this thing was crumbling or falling down around his ears. He owed everybody he knew money, but he just he was the ultimate bullshit salesman. And he's so good at believing his own bullshit that he can convince other people to believe his bullshit. And so that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, he's a cult of personality. That's why when he finally croaks, when that day happens, and I end up throwing something on the grill, he's a nihilist. Yeah, he doesn't care about what happens after he's gone. He's already said that. Yeah, when he's gone, JD Vance isn't going to be able to control this thing. This guy is a 101. They were trying to groom his sons to take over. The little cokehead son that he has. That Don Jr., man, it's not going to work, bro. Once he's gone, the cult of personality goes with him. And what you're going to have is a bunch of unhinged people looking for their next leader. And that's what's scary. That's the thing that should scare people. Yeah. I had to chill because I couldn't say it, right. Like, I couldn't say after that when it happens, and yeah, I can only say when it happens. I feel like the word pyramid scheme. Oh yeah, man, he's a schemer. Right now, I mean, he's rigged the crypto industry to be a personal piggy bank for he and his family, his grifting family. He's rigged Israel to be a personal piggy bank for Jared Kushner, and tried to rig it, even though not Israel, Iran. He tried to rig Iran to be a personal piggy bank for Jared Kushner. Initially the plan was they're going to have $300 billion in contracts to rebuild Iran. That was part of the agreement, and American companies would be able to negotiate for those rebuilding contracts. And who is the contractor that is working over in the Middle East and doing the most work over there? It's Jared Kushner. So it's a scheme. It's a scam artist. Yeah, and I don't think she has the charisma to pull it off. Because the reason why a lot of these Trumpers really fall in love with him, because he says he hates the people that they hate, and he says it in a way that is oafish and mean-spirited, and they want to be able to act like him. And his daughter doesn't really. She's too mild of a personality. That make the word viewers. Those bots automatically get filtered out. Venezuela, that's where all the billions in oil, right? She's the closest. Oh, okay. So before this person goes away, I'm putting this on the screen so you guys can read this. Trump is an alpha male. I hope you stay around. Trump is an alpha male. That's why we love him. Trump is not an alpha male. He's not an alpha male. I don't know where you come from, but you talk about a fake alpha male. Listen, if I walked up right now with my open hand and went across his face, he's going to do nothing but sit there and blink at me. That ain't alpha male stuff. He's not a tough guy. I don't know where you guys think that he's a tough guy. I know tough guys. I know 13-year-olds that run his pockets. He's not a tough guy. And you guys have gotten into this weird thing where alpha male means that you have a lot of money and status. I'm from alpha male means you get people move around you despite not having the money or status. It's the fake alpha male stuff. Because if you removed all the money from him, what do you have? What do you have? Remove all the money and security and all the other stuff, Secret Service from around him. What do you have? He's not a tough guy. He's only tough with people that he doesn't think can push back or hurt him. That's it. He pops off to women. Like, even with the entire Rosie O'Donnell thing, he's popping off to a woman because he felt like he could dominate her. He doesn't talk to dudes like that in real life. He's not a real tough guy. He's a fake tough guy. And that's what the alpha male, that's what the entire alpha male thing boils down to anyway, bro. Like, there's a bunch of fake tough guys who think that having money means that they are head of the pack. And it's like, yeah, the money is good until somebody takes it off of you. I had a kid on my caseload. I think he's like 15 or 16 years old. He strong arm robbed somebody for a gun. He strong arm robbed somebody and took the guy's gun and wallet, but took his gun, his sidearm, took it off of him. Those are the people I'm used to working with. Those are people I've interacted with and worked with for 20 some odd years. Also, where I grew up, he's not a tough guy. Snort. Yeah, and that's the other side. Alpha males has been debunked. Even the person that coined the term has disavowed the use of that phrase. The person that came up with the term alpha male disavowed the phrase. It's just something. It's something that human beings have a lot of people have just taken, kind of like IQ, where we don't really we really use IQ. We misappropriate the use of the word IQ, and that's the same thing that happens with alpha male, right? It's not the appropriate. It's not the appropriate usage of the term, because there's nothing alpha about it. And even like I said, the person that coined the term, watching the wolves in captivity, they disavowed the use of they've backed off of even using it. They don't even want it in parlance, because they're like, it's kind of a bullshit thing. He's not, and that's the thing. He's a great bullshit artist. Bullshit artists bring in people. Bullshit artists are fun to watch. But fun to watch and bring in people doesn't mean that they should be running. They should have the nuclear codes. Johnny Knoxville had a big personality and was fun to watch. I don't know if if he should have the nuclear codes. Just waiting for the Mexico versus Ecuador game. Who you got? He he is not tough. Right. He's not a tough guy. A pissed off, angry old dude who got fired from bus driver because he's racist and still pisses up. Right. He's just like, that's him. He's a disgruntled old man who's going through his season of dementia. And he's just angry. Like he feels like the entire world has shorted him, and he's trying to get revenge on all the people that he feels have transgressed against him. He never forgave Obama for calling him an idiot. Never. They've been carrying that's been bothering him. Like, he's been ticklish. He's ticklish. That's been bothering him for a long time. I went to get his book. His name is Sean Ellis. Okay. Yeah. So any living man that is tough, as long as there's no police, guns, right. Being tough means that nothing's ever going to make right. Trump knows there's never going to be any consequence for what he does, bro. I guarantee you, when he thought for the 30 seconds that he thought he might go to jail, I mean, I bet he was filling diapers left and right. nervous poos where it's like watery and oily and greasy and stuff. He is filling them diapers left and right. When he thought that he might go to jail. He's not a tough guy. Okay. and I mean, the guy in office does too. Like, listen, I don't like to get on, because I come from behavioral health background. That was the pathway I was on before my life took a little bit of a detour when I decided to step away from that world. I've rewritten and trained the principles of behavior to working frontline staff and stuff like that. And I was on my way to getting my degree in clinical counseling. And so I don't like to diagnose people, but there is a lot of telltale signs of, when you look at Trump, like from a physical standpoint and a couple of other things, where it looks like there's some dementia going on, specifically when you transcribe his words. Like, Joe Biden had a speech impediment, right? And I don't necessarily think that he was dementia. He's just, you get older, you slow down. I mean, damn, you're 80 years old. You start slowing down around that time. And he already had a speech impediment and stuff like that. That's going to make it a little bit harder, harder to find your words. So, seasons of dementia, like, we're going through another season of it. Like right now, and I think it kind of it jumps out when he encounters different pushbacks against the thing. Like, right now, I think he was really, really pissed off about how people are perceiving this Iran shenanigans mess, because obviously it's a L for America. Obviously they lost. The country lost, and so he has to spin it. And so this season of dementia, Iran isn't capitulating and doing exactly what he wants, and so now we're seeing a different anger come out. Now he's also worrying about the next election, the next voting cycle, and so his fixation on the SAVE Act, and he's willing to burn any sort of goodwill that he may have engendered by signing that housing bill, because he wants the SAVE Act to take place so he can rig the next election. And so that's what we're dealing with here. On the left, thought they could take Trump. Right. He's not a tough guy. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's 80-year-old man, and he's never really been like, I mean, they've mentioned physical abuse and stuff like that. Like, he used to beat his kids or whatnot, apparently, and beat his wife and stuff, but it's never against another adult. Like, he never got that testy with another adult face to face. I'm catching up, guys. Sorry. Obama's been living in his brain for 20 years. Right. It drives him nuts. Younger president looks better than he does. Melania smiles at them in a way that he does. Like, there's a lot of different stuff. That is true. A lot of men on the right don't think they could take an 80-year-old man. Plus, it's this weird thing where they got to draw him as weird and muscular with no like with shirt various stages of undress. It's really weird. It's a very weird thing to do and claim to be tough guys. I just don't get it. Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice if the health professionals is somebody who did question it, but they never work in this country again. Cartel's tough guy. They risk their life every day, but they don't want to be that tough to have the government of other countries. Let me for that. Oh, okay. The whole fucking world lost. Yeah, we did. Uh-huh. So I'm gonna ask you something. Because apparently this is a troll name. So I'm asking you what the purpose is here. Do you want to actually have a real conversation, or is it just gonna be this kind of stuff? Because if it's just gonna be this kind of stuff, then we could separate company right now. Yeah, everybody has to pay those fees. Right. He's not he's a doddering old man. And the lean and all the other stuff, a lot of that stuff, the lean where he is always leaning forward and stuff is about to fall on the verge of falling over. There's some other stuff going on with this man's brain. You take him in the fight. Right. Like I'm saying, right? Like add something interesting or controversial or something, or get off the stream, bro. Like I guess for me, I think the entire old bummer thing and stuff, like the way the right trolls people, it has this layer of lameness to it where it's literally just stuff that they've been recycling since 2018. Like, oh bummer. Huh. It's old man joke, bro. Like I don't care about that shit. Even the weak ones at times, right? RFK doesn't have Trump on any diet. That is window dressing. Um, Here's what's gonna RFK does enough steroids to kill a small horse. And I'm tired of pretending that he doesn't. Um, I've seen guys like when I finally pulled over 600, I deadlifted over 600. And there was this older gentleman who was in his 70s, and he was considered one of the older power lifters in our city. Um, and he showed me all his records and everything. This guy was jacked. He was a strong guy. At this time, he's in his 70s. He's still pulling damn near 500 pounds, which is impressive at his age. And he had, he was natty at the time. RFK is on roids. He's on roids. And he's one parasite away or one roadkill away from no longer being in the government for too long. I don't think RFK has Trump on any kind of carnivore diet, bro. He doesn't. He doesn't. This man's not changing his diet. He's on some kind of experimental weight loss drug. They've already kind of tipped the hand of that. So no. Misunderstand me. People with those issues can be because here's the thing, the cause and effect part is kind of like dealing with what I used to have to deal with when I was working with kids. I used to tell my staff, they were, I had staff that, were big guys, and I was like, hey, you got to watch even being a big guy around these kids, because they don't have the same awareness that you do of cause and effect. Like an adult, for most adults, there is a level that an adult, in terms of violence, that an adult will go to, knowing that they could permanently harm or kill somebody. Teenagers do not have that. And I was dealing with kids that were already assaultive, and I would have to tell my staff, yeah, the tough guy, the jailhouse tough guy, like you're working in a jailhouse, that stuff is not going to work here. You're not going to intimidate these kids. you know, and it's all good until like one day what actually happened where we had a 6'3", damn near 300-pound, 15-year-old in our house with a history of assault. It's like, you think you're gonna punk him? The only way we're going to get through to him is to speak with him. Not going to kowtow to and let him do whatever he wants to, but we're not going to try to intimidate him into compliance either. Oh, Lord, guys, I think it'll be like if Trump had gout like the Kings did back in the day, and that's why he's always sitting down. Now he follows the diet to get a prison nurse and a military nurse before that. She's based in Margaret Houlihan. MASH. I just dated myself. Um, but yeah, I think when we talk about it, I think and it's this weird concept of masculinity in this country that has been kind of foisted upon us by weirdos on the internet about what masculinity actually is. Um and that's where it all comes from, this weird aggressive, this masculinity that's required on destroying or subjugating things. Um and since they don't have the physical ability to dominate or subjugate anybody, they use material things to do it. Access to food and money and things along those lines. And that's why there's so many fake alpha males on here. So many people, you can go on YouTube for a long time. All you had to do was start a channel that said how to be an alpha male, and you would get a bajillion views because everybody was looking how to be in charge of other people, not understanding that oftentimes the people that are best at being in charge are the people who don't want to be in charge. Co-opted. Huh? I think the word we're looking for is who sent that message out to the pimps. All right, man. Well, if you like it, I love it for you, I guess. Knock yourself out. A shirtless Trump. What fresh horrors are we going to unleash upon it? All right. So that's why I like Trump's. Yeah. I think we kind of reached the end of, yeah, that's the failure. Yeah, and like I said, I think we've kind of like this. To be honest with you, the conversation's kind of run its course, bro. Like, I don't think we're getting to the like. Go watch your game and enjoy the game, bro. Because if we're the shirtless Jack Trump, like if we're not gonna have a discourse, then that's cool. So we talked about the birthright citizenship thing. Um, the court struck down federal limits on coordinated spending between political parties and candidates. So now the season finale of America is now brought to you by that Koch brother that's not dead, and the PayPal mafia, um, and Jeff Bezos. Because now they can just dump as much money into campaigns as they want. Like, they're really hoping for this. Because money is free speech now. I mean, that's kind of what the Citizens United thing says. And so they were looking for this. So parties and candidates can coordinate more directly. Big money gets cleaner pipelines into campaigns. So right now, this entire state is essentially held hostage by Pete Ricketts and the Ricketts family and their money. And so now they have more ability to dictate policy and who gets elected and who gets to run for office and things along those lines, and who gets access. So yeah, great. Because corporations always have the interest of the rest of us in mind. Are you kidding? They love us. So anyway, yeah, it's getting better to like it's getting easier if you have enough money to influence an election. So realistically, if you really, if you're really into, if you really think capitalism is your way, And your ultimate goal should be to own a judge. All right. West Virginia versus PB, the trans athletes one. This one, okay. I don't know how much, because in our state, this is like they treat this entire trans athletes thing like it is this end of days kind of scenario, this doomsday kind of scenario, when we're talking about a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of kids. And you're making laws just narrowly to screw with that specific subgroup of kids. Okay, so we need to go ahead and was that 6'3" black as well? Where are we going with it? Because I'm jumping back because if we want to be real, the most violent kid in my shelter was like a 5'4" scrawny white kid with intermittent explosive disorder who somebody taught Brazilian jiu-jitsu to. And he was dangerous. Tired and tried. What's the controversial opinion? Share it. We're doing the Trans Olympics. Yeah. Yeah, it's just political capital. It's just red meat that they can throw at the constituency and get them fired up about something. They can screw over a group of a population of people that is in this state is way less than 1% of the population, just to say that they have taken a moral stand against something that doesn't happen statistically significant. Statistically, it happens almost as close to 0% of the time as you can possibly imagine. It's like voter fraud, right? Voter fraud happens almost literally at 0%, just a little bit above 0% of the time. But we're going to create and we're going to remake our entire laws based on the fact that it could happen. It just doesn't ever at any point in time. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. They take a handful of high profile cases and act like this is a sign of something, even though it's really their outlets making these cases high profile. And it's just another way to screw with people. No translations into rude, right? They profit off of it, like the war on Christmas and abortion. Yeah, it's another. Yeah, and you live, where you're at. You're dealing with the culture war stuff. We see it here. It's really weird to be that bored in your daily existence, where this is all the shit. This is the only thing you can think about all day. What kind of genitals does that kid have over there? It's really a weird way to think about things. It is a really weird thing. But unfortunately, we have people that are fixated on this kind of stuff because policy is complex, right? A lot of these laws and stuff, that affect our daily lives is complex. Like if we're talking about, how municipalities secure funding for big, huge capital, like we're building a new skyscraper here, putting a new stadium here. That is a very complex thing to understand and be mad about. But it's really easy to say, well, there are boys playing girl sports. It doesn't happen. The reason they haven't downed because they weaponize into privilege. Yeah, right. And that's what it is. It's about controlling to see who has what parts. There's cases right now of women being stopped walking into the restroom by other women or even men that have deputized themselves as the watcher of the genitals, and they've decided that they need to do inspections on everybody that comes in and out of the bathroom, just so that they can uphold this weird thing that they have in their this weird social order that they have in their mind. The weird self-deputization, and I'm saying the self-deputization of specific white folks, where they just decide they are the deputies and arbiters of what is right and what is wrong, is really a weird thing. And it's kind of something that's been revealed with like we have more camera phones now. I've encountered it like even passively, like even when I was in college, me and my friends went out to one of those places, I think it was like Village Inn or one of those IHOP kind of places, and we're eating, and this lady just walks over, and she had some mental things going on, but she walks over and she says, And we're sitting there looking at her, and she's staring at the table like, "Can we help you?" "I know who you are." "You do? And you better pay, because last time you didn't pay, you ran out of here without paying." She didn't work there. We didn't even know who this lady was. But she had deputized herself to control and dictate what our behaviors are supposed to be. And it turned into this whole thing. But there's a weird group of people that want to make themselves the bosses of the situation, and they feel like it's their job to uphold whatever moral order or whatever social order they have in their brain. And oftentimes it comes by policing the action of Black folks out in public. It's in So, for example, a category guys that call guys around with extra tits for it to be called. Okay. The same people who keep screaming about the same to them are the exact ones who hated and constantly insulted judge. Yeah, they don't watch. They're the same people that will sit there and talk about how they never watched the WNBA and they don't care and blah 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 until Caitlin Clark came along, and then it's WNBA is their new stage for and you could tell they didn't watch the WNBA because they don't know how physical the WNBA is. Like, it's the most physical basketball league that you're going to see on television. And she's getting fouled hard. Everybody gets fouled hard. WNBA is a blood sport. Like, it is combat basketball. Um, and everybody gets hard fouls. The same girl that, all this outroar about Caitlin Clark, the same girl damn near tried to break Angel Reese's neck a couple years ago, and they didn't say shit about that. Like, she tried to break that girl's neck. They didn't say anything about that. But it's this weird not wanting to watch it but wanting to control it kind of thing, not wanting it to exist but still feeling the need to control it thing. In Dutch, there's a saying: the way of the innkeeper is the degree of crust he puts in the cup. Hey, I like that one. I might have steal that one. Yeah, but they also poke other women in the eyes. Like, I think the thing is, you got to understand, some of the most insane, hardest fouls I've ever seen in a professional basketball game happened in the WNBA, and this is before Caitlin Clark ever got drafted there, ever, before she ever entered the league. So it is absurdly physical. And if you watch pre-Caitlin WNBA, some of the things that you see, you would never see on the NBA, because the guys get paid too much, and there's too much money at stake for a superstar athlete to end up getting literally choke slammed on the ground. I've seen some of the craziest fouls I've ever seen watching basketball, watching the WNBA. It is insanely physical, and I think the weird expectation that it all's supposed to not happen when Caitlin comes around, that's what my problem with it has always been. That the league's intensity and physicality has always been kind of a thing for people, know that it is, but when it comes to her, she's not allowed to experience it. And that's what my problem has always been. Because bread is don't watch sports on principle, because bread in games better than to eat bread, though. You can't steal a gift that's for you. I like that one. Let's see. Everybody's talking about Clark's claim. Yeah, and I'm right next door. Like, there's a bunch of Caitlin Clark fans here, but I'm also I run a basketball. I co-own a basketball training business. I've watched basketball since I was a kid. Played in junior high for a year, and that didn't go well. But the thing about it is, though, you just got to understand that um, for her, specifically, there's a racial element to a lot of the Caitlin Clark stuff, because there's always been, like, right now, if you wanted to revive heavyweight boxing in America, you would need a white heavyweight that was dominant, because that's the way that they would do it. That's who they build the engine around. And I could talk about it a little bit later, because I do have a music thing that goes into it too. Right. But the WNBA has been doing that for decades. and it's just not going to stop because Caitlin Clark's in the league. The only thing is there's a bigger spotlight on her because that's who she is, but she's not even a top 5 player in the league right now. But the amount of spotlights on her is insane. I have been sneaking dust progressive proverbs into my progressive American hidden agenda to teach progressive America touch. Tell me how the mission goes. Started. Hey, that's a good premise for like a YouTube channel. Yeah, they're still talking about Clark. Okay, I get it. People are going to the funeral straight to her game. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Don't make me blush. um, one of the things is I think specifically because we kind of get a distorted perspective around here, like Nebraska, Iowa, it sounds like Kansas too. Um, for a lot of WNBA fans out on the coast, they don't really care. Like if they're following the league and they have their teams, their worlds don't center around Caitlin Clark, and it's kind of frustrating for them to see that's the only person that ever gets news coverage. You know, girls will go off and have these phenomenal games or do something amazing, and all the what's Caitlin doing? Well, they lost tonight, and she cussed out the refs. Whoa, wow, and that ends up becoming the news story. Yeah, they have. Yeah, like they got here. We got more times than not. Unless you watch hoops, we have in the Midwest. We have professional from a professional sporting side of things. We have Caitlin Clark fans. And whoever played at this Midwestern college and made it to the NBA fans. And that's kind of what it's limited to. Iowa's strong for supporting women and girls sports. Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's pretty dope. Like I said, it's frustrating when the narrative only like where there's only one important person to be talking about instead of figuring out who the next who can we elevate to be the next Caitlin, or who can we give attention to who's up and coming that is deserving that attention. It's the hyper focus on her. Now we can announce who's going to run socialist party already. No, I think it's a good thing. All right. Most disturbing violence is a murder. The most okay. Often violent scenes of murder. It's often the male predator. Yeah, I need to parse that a little bit. Um, the way I always, and this may not address specifically what's said. Um, I think a lot of times when we look at victims and who's a victim of crime or whatnot, um, it's always like it's always there's always this level of onus that's put on the victim. Um, you know, like even like when we talk about stuff like bullying, right? Like, don't be such a good victim, and then you won't get bullied. And that's kind of how we phrase this kind of stuff. I always put the onus on the criminal, and um, I get. I'm trying to parse what was being said because I'm trying to read it on this screen here, and it keeps dropping off. Predators are going to be predators because they're predators, and physical deterrents aren't going to always stop them. Um, I mean, there are specific physical interventions that one can apply to a predator that makes them no longer on this mortal plane. That ultimately stops the predator, but more times than not, it's not the fact there are too many victims. There's too many predators in the world. So I'm trying. I guess I'm trying to understand the context of it. Is often when the It's physically isn't. I'll come back to this one because it does tie into another point that something else I was going to talk about here. Let me finish this out. The mail-in ballots one. Okay, let's finish out the trans athletes. So basically, states have stronger legal cover to exclude trans athletes from girl sports, and I don't think that a lot of politicians are actually looking forward to this not being an issue in their respective states, because as long as they can have people fighting over this issue, then they can go ahead and pass legislation about things that they don't easily understand. But they have legal room to exclude trans girls from girl sports. And don't think that that's just going to stay contained to that. I'm just telling you now, because we've already dealt with what happens when somebody doesn't meet the aesthetic of the specific gender, and you come to find out they are actually a woman and a biological woman, and now you've kind of, essentially um you essentially discriminated against them. I remember in the Olympics when they had that young lady that was boxing, and everybody's like, she used to be a man, she's a trans, and she wasn't. At no point ever was she a biological male. But that would ended up becoming the narrative, ended up becoming a joke, and ended up becoming a rallying call for stupid people online. Mail-in ballots. The court said federal election laws do not prevent Mississippi from counting absentee ballots postmarked by election day. Yeah, they're going to really try to disenfranchise a bunch of people with this one. And so they basically said, as long as it's postmarked by election day, you should be good. And that's kind of what it is. I think they did give a little bit of a time, an arbitrary time, whatever Mississippi using as their time. Oh, all right. Looks like I missed a couple. Hold on. I'll catch up here. I was a law student in my country and have seen cases like this. Russia. Okay. Well, greetings. DV laws and protections are far less than the United States and other countries, right? Because women can be prosecuted for killing an assaultive husband, and it has happened before. Let me see. Chattery versus geofence warrants. The court said that police conducted a Fourth Amendment search when they acquired Google location data through a geofence warrant. What that means in real life. Sorry, I'm reading the summaries of this. Your phone history has constitutional weight. This does not end geofence warrants, but it raises the legal stakes. So just be mindful that your phone is following you anywhere, and they're trying to find a way to put you in jail for things that it connects to. They're trying to. Here's the thing: it's weird in this country because it's always, most of the times, it's about finding new ways to lock people up, new ways to lock people up, or charge them a bunch of money or whatever. And so that's what it is. Cook Federal Reserve. So this was when Trump tried to remove one of the Fed governors. And so the president doesn't get control of the Fed. He doesn't get to just hire and fire people at the Fed willy-nilly. And the Fed has a stronger level of independence. But by the same token, I think they removed congressional oversight over some of the firings that he does. So now he can unilaterally fire people that are with independent agencies. And that means he's going to shutter a lot of stuff. So we're about to see even more stuff go away. Right. So we get more direct power of the FTC commissioners. I think that was kind of the law. So basically, and I'll condense it because I know I got some comments to catch up on. So bear with me, guys. So birthright citizenship survived this round. We'll see what happens. It seems like they're really pissed off about it being their campaign money. We can still dump. Now we can dump unlimited amounts of money into campaigns. Trans students are absolutely getting fleeced again. Mailing voting was protected a bit. Digital privacy did get recognized. They put some they can't just geolocate your phone and put and make and say that you're at a place. um, the Fed is still insulated from the president's whims to a degree, and the FTC is more answerable to the president. So those are kind of what the Supreme Court ruling said. All right, how far are we in? Hour 25. All right, let me catch up, guys. Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House. I'm like Trump and Dash now. Mike Johnson, yeah. He said the quiet part out loud. It's calling a dog whistle. I think it's time everybody said the quiet part out loud. Right. Um, Mike Johnson feels like he's just one blackmail phone call away from just giving away the whole country. Like, we know what the deal is, Mike. We know what you hide, and we know what you and Lindsey Graham have been hiding, bro. For whatever reason, you act like the rest of us really care about it, and like that is driving how you do public policy. Yeah, the cut America was built on slavery. They mean right. They just want to be able to put people in. They want to be able to enslave jailed people. Um, yeah, a lot of it comes down to how we can use jails as a way to basically remove somebody's humanness. 'Cause that's really what it is. Getting to the deep South, there, I think it was Louisiana, it might have been in Mississippi, where they have prisoners. One of the work details is cleaning the governor's mansion for pennies on the dollar, for pennies a day, and you can't refuse the job. Like, if you get assigned to go clean the governor's mansion, if you refuse the job, you're going to get your sentence extended, or you're going to face some kind of internal sanction that could be like solitary confinement or removal of privileges that you have on a daily basis, or restriction of your movement throughout the prison, stuff like some really things that can make it really miserable for you. And that's basically, it's like, so what do we call that? And then it gets even more insidious when they can lease out prisoners to work for corporations and pay them pennies on the dollar and get compensated by the corporation for the use of the labor. Yeah, but they're not going to, and we got to be careful. I'm gonna tell you, you got to be real careful about how you talk about it, because them folks, these servers and stuff like that, I don't trust. Here's the thing: I'm not worried about me on my feed or anything. I'm more concerned about you guys and what you say on the internet. Be really careful about what gets flagged on here and stuff, because um, you know, I don't want you to have to talk to these people. Like, you're dealing with a corrupt administration. The last thing you want to do is be dealing with their law enforcement arm. As a check app that he uses. Yeah, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life, bro. The fact he admitted it is so bizarre. Why are you telling us about this? Why did you feel like this is something that you needed to disclose to us about this already strange relationship that you have with your adoptive son, that you just said you just saw a black kid outside and just said he's my son now? Like, we're taking ah ah kind of like, the entire, I remember very clearly the Matt Gaetz and the Nestor thing. First of all, Nestor was like his son, and you find out that Nestor already had parents, and like he was just staying in Matt Gaetz's house. Well, he had a whole family of parents and everything. It was so bizarre. Mike Johnson is disclosing things that I don't want to know about him by not by I don't. Yeah, the entire app thing was so weird. It was so bizarre, and I don't know why he felt like the need to tell us this. Yeah, to keep them both from using porn. It was so weird. It's so weird. No, I did when I was in college. I listen. This isn't going anywhere. Like this. This is the last hurrah. I'm not cutting this off ever. Supposed to keep your money safe or using your money to invest so everybody can come get their money. Right. Oh yeah, that's been a thing too. And it's like, people think that they put their money in the bank, it just stays in the bank. And no, the bank goes and plays high, like when right before the housing bubble, they were playing in the housing market, with all those weird securities that they invented just so to drive more money into the pockets of rich people. And a lot of banks, that's why the entire bit too big to fail thing almost came down, because they're like, some of these banks are too big to fail. And it's because they took these high gamble, these billion-dollar gambles with people's money. Yeah. It's like all the bullshit. Yeah. And for them, it's like, well, they have a right to it because it's going to make them money. They see it as extra investments or whatnot. It's really weird how we treat, like, whenever we talk about the American caste system, this is what I'm talking about, where if you have enough money, the law just doesn't matter to you. It doesn't, it's just kind of like a suggestion. The law just, you can do whatever you want. If you have enough money in this country, you can do whatever you want to do and nobody's going to stop you. But if you're poor, you better make damn sure you're toeing the line. You can't even get a parking ticket. And you get a parking ticket as a poor person that goes unpaid because you don't have any money, and it could ruin your life. Meanwhile, ultra billionaire, like, what, Bill Gates is on regular TV, like, yeah, man, I hung out with Epstein. Yeah, man, shoot, man, it was crazy. Me and Jeffrey, like, what? But he has the billions of dollars where it just is not a big deal. Like, yeah, man. I was like, Jeff, you crazy, bro. Like, Jeff. I mean, the way when he was in front of Congress, was it last week with Bill Gates was in front of Congress? He was talking about hanging out with Epstein, like, yeah, man, Jeff was on some bullshit, bro. Like, it was crazy. Like, really just kind of chill and relax about the whole damn thing. Like you weren't cozied up to the most prolific sex trafficker in the modern world. Yeah, man. Jeff was on, like, man, he tried to get me. Like, he was sitting there talking like, yeah, Jeff tried to jam me up. Jeff tried to jam the boy up a couple times, man. Like, he was so relaxed about it. And I'm like, this is what money buys you. He knows that anything he says, he's not going to go to jail for anything he admits to in Congress. They're not going to put him in jail. When's the last time you seen a billionaire actually go to jail? You didn't add that we know about that qualifier. Elaborate. What did I miss? Yeah, like, I mean, oh, that we know of. Okay, I get what I think. I think we're good. That we know about qualifier, guys. Sometimes the words will flip around on me. I apologize. He's the worst one we know about. Um, I don't want to rank it. I don't want to rank it like that. That's not a rank I want to come out with. Yeah, I agree with the that we know of, but just from the amount of money and access that he had, he was one of the most prolific ones that we've seen, because one of his buddies um was in the House of Saud. He's in the Saudi royal family, and he owns a shipping container business. And they've gone through the records. They found that there's plenty of containers that never quite got accounted for. What do you think was in those containers? So Jeff was prolific, and no children were safe from toddler. Like, I'm talking from babies on up to 18 years old. Nobody was safe from him. Some of the things I've actually really read in the actual, like, the parts that they ended up redacting and pulled back. Um, it's the reason why I stopped talking about it on the stream. There's some super, super, super awful, uniquely grim, horrible stuff in there. I'll be honest, like the guy that was the shipping container guy from the Saudi royal family. Um, one of the emails was Jeffrey Epstein is asked him if he liked the torture stuff that he sent him. Sent him a snuff film, a torture snuff film. Probably killing some poor child while torturing it. I think it was a baby. Like there was another one that was a baby video about a baby being killed. Like it was some really, really awful stuff. And so, yeah, I get where I can understand with that we know of, but man, I don't want to know anymore. Like if there's darker than that, I don't necessarily need to know it. And like I said, that was the world I worked with, abusing and neglected kids for all these years. That's and I've seen real life human horror. I don't ever want to like. That's why I stopped covering a lot of the Epstein stuff on this stream because it was like hard to even sit with. Spell checking me to make mistakes. That's how it goes though. When you start typing, like I hate typing in front of people because that's typically what happens. I make the most egregious mistakes. But yeah, for Bill Gates knows he's not going to go to jail because all the writing on the wall is saying that he was messing around with underage girls. Like that's really what it is. If you're involved with Epstein, there's a good chance you're messing around with underage girls, and being a predator, preying upon underage girls or underage boys. To be honest with you, preying on children. That's what is implied when you are one of Jeff Epstein's frequent party guests. And yeah, it looked like Bill Gates pretty much copped to it. Nothing's going to happen to him. Not a damn thing. He walked out with the confidence of that. So anyway, one of these days, I'm going to actually get to my outline and talk about the how segregated music was in the 90s and hip hop and everything. I'm going to do that. It's not going to be this day. We're about an hour and a half in, and I still have a couple of things I need to do before the evening is out. So we'll wrap up with a couple of comments, and then I'll have to catch you guys later. And the comics, right? Absolute Batman, the most recent Absolute Batman. We got to discuss that. I want to do a combo show about Absolute Batman and Absolute Catwoman. Because I like the direction both of them are going, the new twists. I'm going to get to music. I am going to get to music because that's one of the things. And Spider Noir, I promise you, we'll talk about that too. Okay, so this is just a take I'm gonna throw out there because this is one that was actually in my notes, and I've mentioned this online somewhere. When we talk about how segregated music was in the 90s, people got to understand that, like hindsight being 2020, we talk about the biggest rappers of the 90s. We think Snoop, we think Biggie, Pac, and all the other stuff. We talk about who really like from the crossover audience. I'm talking about somebody who actually crossed over to the big audience. In the mid 90s was Coolio. He was one of the biggest rappers on the planet. He completely crossed over to the white audience. Biggie and Pac didn't cross over as much. They started crossing over, but a lot of the notoriety came when they crossed over. It came posthumous, right? Biggie and Pac were famous with black people and white kids that listen to hip hop, but they hadn't crossed over to that mainstream quite yet. They were getting there. And I don't think music fully became really that level of integrated until TRL came out. And even then, the ascendancy of Eminem, and I'm an Eminem fan. I had the Slim Shady EP back in the days. This is before he signed with Dre. My boy Clever had it. He burned it he dropped it on tape for me. And so, but TRL did a lot to bolster Eminem's career. Being a white rapper and being different, he had built a fan base that other rappers couldn't really build in the same way. I'm not knocking him at all, but that's when you started seeing hip hop really cross over to that mainstream. It had been crossing over slowly but surely, but that's where you started seeing it fully integrated into the mainstream. And so then you had your different layers of hip hop. You had the people that were on MTV and BET respectively, and then the people that were on like what I was listening to, which is a lot of the underground stuff. But the cultures were really segregated. Like the entire growing up in the 90s thing, Friends versus Living Single. I was a living single kid. We watched Living Single on Thursday nights. It was New York Undercover. It was Living Single. Was Martin. Not in that order. The black kids, and that's what we talked about in our school. The white kids were talking about what happened on Friends and Seinfeld. Just what it was. And not saying I didn't watch Seinfeld, but that's how it was. And so there wasn't a whole lot of cultural crossover. Like it was still kind of segregated in the 90s. So that's what's on my outline. There's a lot more historic stuff and dates and all the other stuff I have written out. And I spent a lot of time working on it. Maddie, I promise you, I will get to Spider Noir. I haven't. I had a wedding last weekend and was up to my eyeballs in work this weekend. Hopefully, I could take some time off with the holiday weekend and jump into it, and then we could talk about it next stream. But yeah, I promise you, the big audience is, and I know I'm a couple comments behind. So when I say the big audience, I'm talking about the black and white audience and the rest, the mainstream radio top 40 kind of audience. And a lot of this was spawned by somebody saying, well, Jay-Z wasn't really famous until his third album. Like, I mean, if I'm living in Nebraska and Nebraska, our extent of, we listen to stuff from down south, we listen to stuff from the West Coast. But for East Coast artists to get that level of market penetration, we're talking about it was Biggie and Pac. It was not Biggie and Pac, it was Biggie and Jay. Nas to a certain degree, if you were a little bit more underground. For him to be able to get to that market penetration, in 1995 was a pretty big deal. And to be on people's rotation here. And it goes back to how we view numbers now. Streaming numbers have really skewed how we view album sales, because it used to be a big deal to have a gold album. That means 500,000 people went out and bought your album. They left their house, got into a vehicle or walked or whatever, went to the record store, purchased the album. That used to be a big deal. And they were trying to say, well, gold album doesn't mean anything. It meant a heck of a whole lot back then, because buying an album was higher level of intent. Trying to get girls away. I don't know. I got to go back and look. I kind of gave up. And Coolio. Who? He's not a rapper though. Darius Rucker. Oh, from I only want to be with you. Hootie and the Blowfish. Yeah, he crossed over too, but he didn't cross over with black folks the way, like, we knew him as the black dude in Hootie and the Blow. We thought he was Hootie. Like, we thought Darius Rucker was Hootie for a long time, bro. And I didn't figure that out until we got older, until the internet was really, really ubiquitous. You could kind of look it up, until Wikipedia came out. But we knew Darius Rucker as Hootie. Yeah, we had warehouse music where we could actually go and sit down and listen to an entire album before we bought it, but that didn't come around until later. First it was Blockbuster Music, and we could do the same thing. But warehouse music also had used CDs, so that if you bought an album and it was trash, you could come back and resell it to them, and they'd drop it in the used bin. And so they're making money like they were making money on you regardless, which is really kind of crazy when you sit down and look at it. But talking about a gold artist in the early 90s, and now you got these mega it's low intent. Streaming is low intent, bro. I can actually accidentally give stream play to an artist I don't want to listen to just by pressing the wrong button, right? Album sales were higher intent. You actually had to leave the house to go purchase the album before digital downloads and stuff. And so when we start comparing music pre-90s or 90s and pre-internet, pre-streaming to what's happening right now, it skews all the numbers. And so that's where he was speaking, where Jay-Z wasn't famous before his third album. I'm like, well, if we're listening to him in Omaha, and Omaha doesn't really listen to East Coast, wasn't really listening to East Coast rappers like that, it's a pretty big deal. Plus a gold rap, any artist that goes gold in 1995 is famous. That's just pretty much what it is. At least they're famous on the music scene, because it wasn't common for an artist to have a gold album, more or less a platinum album. Now, they can use streaming numbers and say, well, he's had 1 billion streams. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Anybody can stream an album. No, I have not. Tell me about what it is. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about Pac, and I can get sidetracked. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you. If you're domestic or around here, enjoy your holiday weekend. If you're not, enjoy the World Cup. Um, I really do. I may now that Steam is finally updated, I probably can play some games and stuff now. So I will try to on one of these days. I'm going to force myself to take a day off and hop on the stream and just game and vibe with y'all. So that's what I got. It won't be on StreamYard, I don't think. StreamYard is a mess for that kind of stuff, but we'll see. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Blurting while dad. Peace.